So here's our first carburettor. You see quite clearly now that just operates singly, and also on here there's a little accelerator jet. Now what this accelerator jet does, when you put your foot down on the accelerator, like blam, like that, this squirts a bit of extra fuel so that instead of getting that faltering moment before acceleration commences, it goes straight away because you've got that extra rich mix. So it's like blam, yeah. Right, let's get into it. Okay, there's one. Now these carburettors are made from die cast metal in pretty much a similar way to lots of toy cars. Now, as I'm taking this off, I'm going to pull the gasket up with it as well so that I can get everything off in one go, I hope. Okay, so here we have, in this top part, we have the float. Now, that sits in a float chamber. Now, here's the float chamber. Now, this here is a little reservoir of fuel that's there so that the carburettor has its supply when it needs it. In order to make sure that that reservoir doesn't fill up too far and thus flood the carburettor, allowing fuel to just drain into the engine, what you have is a float. What happens is, as the float goes up, as the petrol level gets higher, it closes off a little needle valve which is situated just up here. Quite a simple operation. So we'll turn that over and just push out if we can. There's a little brass pin and there's the float. So I'll just keep those together for now. So here, this is the needle valve, so called because it's basically needle shaped, or it's pointy. And literally, as it moves up into the seat, closes off the supply of petrol. Old needle valves can stick, which means that one carburettor could be starved of fuel because it's not quite getting enough. So you can have uneven running caused by one of these little valves here. Now, here we have the jets. Now, the jets are essentially holes of a very specific size, and they allow certain amounts of fuel or certain amounts of air through at specific times, which means you get the correct petrol and air mixture for the rev range that you're actually in when you're driving the car. So some of these operate as idler jets, which allow enough fuel to come through just when the car is ticking over when it's idling. And others are there as progression jets, so as you're getting faster and faster, as the engine's moving more quickly, then more fuel is allowed through. So we'll take the accelerator jet off now. Now, I can feel there's a bit of spring resistance behind here, and sure enough, there we go. There's our little spring. Put that in my tray. Let's remove this diaphragm. Okay, so this whole casting is a whole series of little galleries, little sort of passages through, eventually, and out into the bottom part of the carburettor and out into the engine. Quite a nice piece of kit. Now this is the cold start device. If I take that out, I can just move that by hand. Now there's a spring on this spindle here, so when I take this out, that spring shouldn't be affected because that is actually on the spindle itself. So here we have 2 screws, in they go. Oh, that's nice. There's the cold start device. Now, you can see those 2 quadrants geared together operating. And what they do is they operate this little device here, which opens up these 2 ports to allow in more fuel. So we've got our new parts. I've got my tray of bits, a mixture of old and new. And also we've got the partially stripped carburettor here. But one thing that I have noticed about this is that down in the bottom here, there you have lots of dust and sand and debris. Look at all that. And I'll just use my special carburettor's friend, This is one tool that you should have in your toolbox at all times when cleaning intricate items. It's a toothbrush. So I'll just use that just to clean into all those little hard to get to areas, all those little corners. There we go. Beautiful. Now that that's clean, I'm going to remove these jets. There's one on each side. Let's do the other. One thing I will do is just blast out these jets with a bit of compressed air. Just to make sure that the jets in there, these tiny little holes, just to make sure that those are nice and clean as well, because if any of that dirt is lodged in there, it affects the performance. Okay, so those are done. Now also, I have other jets here. I think these are the progression jets. Yeah, so give those a little blast with some cleaner. Compressed air treatment, back in they go. Okay, let's get these out. These main jets, give them a bit of a squish. Well, I should be able to take this one out as well. Oh, there we are. Okay, so here we have, again, another little tiny pair of jets in there. Clean everything up. There we go, that's better. Right, so we're all clean in there, that's good. I'm going to move on to the top now and take out that old needle valve. Yep, there we go. So there's the aluminium washer. What we'll do is just clean that all out as well. In goes the new seat. In then goes the new needle. There we are. I'll now put the float back in. So these can rupture or puncture, and that means they'll just sit at the bottom of the reservoir. Petrol will constantly pump into that carburettor, flooding it. Won't work. There's a little tag on there that operates onto the needle valve itself, so I know that it goes this way round. In goes the pivot pin. There we are. So I can now turn that upside down, and hey presto, there's the new needle valve installed. I'll also clean the filter. Back goes the filter. A couple more little washers to replace. There's a fibre washer down the bottom there, and another one at that point. Again, clean it out. Back on it goes. Going to get my fresh gasket, pop that on the top there, over the jets. I can now place the top part of the carburettor back in place. 4 screws, put them back in. Just gently at first, just to make sure that we haven't pinched any of the gasket there. Then a final tighten. There we go. So there's the top of the carburettor done, but as yet uncleaned on the outside. So the gasket goes on like so, aligning up all the holes. In that goes into there. Yeah, okay, that's working correctly. So there we have the enrichment device sorted, which leads us to the accelerator pump. Again, ensuring that everything is clean. And our pump sits in there, that operates like that. In that goes into there, like so. Right, so let's just check the operation of that. Yep, so it's operating that accelerator pump. So, there we have it. That is the carburettor internally rebuilt. So I'll just give it a little bit of a tidy up on the outside. Get the old magic toothbrush. Handsome is as handsome does, as they say, eh? There we go. One rebuilt carburettor.